So welcome everyone to Net Tuesday for December. We're going to be talking about analytics and tools for understanding and optimizing the usage of your website. And so I'll go through a couple of things preliminarily before we actually start the program, and we'll do a general go-around introductions for everyone. How many people have been here before or haven't been here before? How many people is new for?
What did you ask?
I'm going to switch back and forth. Yeah. Who has not been here before? Really? Wow, that's great. Okay. So this will be new to you and old to other people. Basically, there are a bunch of net squared chapters affiliates around the world, mostly doing things along the nature of what we're doing, most of whom are having Net Tuesday events, often once a month, not always. In our case, we tend to think of the Net Tuesday events and the Net Squared as being something along the theme of using the social web for social change. And the main thing in which we try and achieve that is by having these events on the first Tuesday of every month, where we talk about something along those themes. We also have a planning meeting, which is a conference call, on the second Tuesday of the month, and everyone's invited to participate in that. We have a website, which is right there, which is also where the live stream is available. And we have a Google group for participation in terms of discussions, announcements, questions, other sorts of things that might be of interest or would be useful for people in the community. So, this is the past year of events. We can see a bunch of different topics, a couple of themes, a couple of regular formats like crowdsourcing change, where we have organizations come up and share their website and get advice from the crowd, or the social web sampler, which we did last month, where we have a little bit of a mini unconference of a bunch of different topics. But most of the sessions are about some sort of topic or another. The upcoming Net Tuesdays are on January 8th, which is actually the second Tuesday of the month, because the first is the first, which is not a good day to have it. And those are coming up, and if you're interested in the participating in the conference call for planning, let me know. I'll give you instructions. In addition to the events themselves, this is really about networking while we're here. So as Mary's holding up, there's a sign-up sheet back there. Please sign in. Please make sure your sign-in is somewhat legible. I'll take that information and just send out the contact information back out to the people in the group, and only the people in the group. As well as business cards. If you leave a business card, there are also some blanks there. You can make one up or fill one in if you have a particular identity that you resonate with this evening. And we'll scan those and send those back out to everyone. And people are invited to wear a tag to name themselves, as well as to tag themselves with some other information, and in this case give ourselves ideas of good movies to go see. And we have a strict no questions too stupid policy. Just some quick housekeeping here. There's some food over there. We don't want to have anything to bring home. This is a LEED Platinum certified building, and actually you'll hear a little bit more about that in a moment, I think. And so we do composting and recycling. All the food is compostable. The bathrooms are right past the elevators. We have Wi-Fi access. It's just open. AFSC network is the Wi-Fi. We are recording this event. If you feel uncomfortable being recorded and streamed on the internet, please, there's a section over there called the Video Free Zone, which will make sure you don't get on camera. And we will be passing around a microphone, which is important not so much because not so much for people within the room to hear you, but for the recording and for the stream. It makes it a lot easier for people outside to be able to hear. So we ask you to try and use the microphones if possible. You can get, if you park across the street, across 15th Street, you can get your card validated for a discount at the front desk here. And for those who are interested, we usually go out for a drink or a bite afterwards and continue the conversation informally. So you're all invited to participate in that. And the sponsor is the American Friends Service Committee, which is one of the tenants of this building. The American Friends Service Committee does peace and social justice work around the world. And we are actually pleased to be one of the tenants of this building. I work with the AFSC. And we also have with us tonight Pat McBee, who's the executive director of the Friends Center. And I think you might want to just say a word of welcome.
Seth has been urging me to come and welcome this group for about a year, and tonight's the first time I decided I'd go ahead and come. So I'm really glad you all come and do this. This is good work. How does it feel to be in a building that is carbon neutral and fossil fuel free?
Yeah, oh, great. Thank you.
Just in case you think it's science fiction, you're in such a building. And this has been a place for social change since 1856, and we think that Net Squared just kind of boosts that into the 21st century. So we're glad you're here.
Okay. So let's get underway. As I said, we're going to pass around a microphone. So please just introduce yourself. If you have something you want to say about any experience you have with using analytics or trying to understand analytics, or other sorts of information about the usage of your website, you might want to share that right now, which will help Nate be able to tailor the discussion a little bit more toward those lines. I would like to mention that Andrew Sather had a family emergency and won't be able to be here tonight. So Nate has graciously agreed to carry this on his broad shoulders, and I'm sure we'll have a good discussion. So I am Seth Horowitz. I work here at the AFSC and have been working with organizing these Net Tuesdays since 2008. And I have actually no experience with analytics, but I do work with the internet here, and we're looking at trying to get some better software so that we can actually have access to better analytics ourselves.
My name is Michael Burnside. I work with Quaker Worker House. I also have no experience with analytics, and I think I'm going to be happy just sitting here absorbing and soaking up, and I doubt I'll be wise enough to have any questions.
Kind of short. Can everybody see me? Hi, my name is Lanice Williams. I'm the communications coordinator at Maternity Care Coalition. We actually currently use Google Analytics, and I'm totally stumped as to the best way to get that to give me the information that is most useful to me. So, nice seeing everyone.
Hi, my name is Lorraine Stewart, and I am currently self-employed and just here to listen and learn as much as I can about analytics.
I'm Laura Murphy. I'm currently volunteering with Occupy Sandy, and I'm starting to use Google Analytics.
My name is Louise Salinas. I work for a Quaker organization in this building called Friends World Committee for Consultation Section of the Americas. We're the association of all the Quaker churches, meetings, and worship groups in North, South, and Central America. And I do look at Google Analytics from time to time for a couple of our websites, but could stand to learn more about what to make of them.
I'm neglected. I'm Dennis Murphy, freelancer. I've used it, Google Analytics, Webmaster tools, and a few other analytics. Never entirely sure if I'm doing the right thing.
Hi, I'm Faye Anderson. I use Google Analytics, but can always learn more.
Hi, I'm Andy. I'm a system administrator. We're going to learn a little bit more about analytics.
Hi, I'm Carrie Williams with a new organization called Compete 360, and I know absolutely nothing about analytics.
I'm Charlie Kirk. I'm a certified peer specialist in the mental health field. I'm not sure how I got here, except for the email from Seth. But could be. I was part of Occupy Philly last year. I don't know. Hey, what do I know? I'm here. I'm here is what I know.
I'm Denny Casrell, and I do online communications for a nonprofit healthcare provider in Philadelphia called Health Partners. I have some familiarity with analytics, but one thing that I'm interested in, one of the things I'm interested in is either following click streams or funnels, or just getting beyond just like that top layer and having a better idea of how people are moving about the site.
I'm Reed Gusto. I make WordPress websites and teach WordPress. And my company is Delta Angel, and I'm now getting into Drupal as well. And I would like to learn a lot more about Google Analytics.
I'm Michael Reichner. I do custom database and application development.
Hi, Mitch Collier, working basically for federal government agencies doing health communications and other scientific information projects. And I've had the opportunity to work with a system called Omniture, which is I think now owned by Adobe, which is a very in-depth analysis tool, very expensive tool that the government agencies can use, and also played with the weblog analysis tools, and never used Google Analytics though.
I'm Brianna Morgan. I work at the Office of the HIV Clinic. I'm the website coordinator, social media, everything. And my analytics are about to get all naked in front of everybody. So that's all I have to say about that.
Hi, everyone. My name is LaTanya Vicks. I'm currently interning with the Mural Arts program in the Communications and Marketing Department. So I just wanted to come and learn some more about analytics.
Well, you just met me. I'm Pat McBee, and I work here at Friends Center, and we have a very tiny staff and are just kind of putting our toe in this stuff.
Hi there. My name is Lori Walsh. I'm from CARI. We're an advocacy agency for seniors, and my executive director keeps asking me to fix the AdWords, and I keep on going, okay. But I don't know what she's talking about, so that's why I'm here.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Nurek. I'm a photographer, and I need a much better understanding on how to analyze traffic and other things to my website.
Hi, everyone. I'm Wendy Univer. I work at the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College, and I'm in the same boat as Brianna over here. It'll all be hanging out for you very soon, and you'll know what we do and don't know.
Hi, I'm Janice Smith. I work at the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College as well. Probably a year ago, I knew nothing about Google Analytics, and today I think I'm the expert in the college, which is really scary. I know how to sort of, okay, somebody came to our page, and this is where they came from. That's about the extent, and I'm really interested to see what I can learn today.
Good evening. I'm Tamwa Wright, and I am with the new organization, Pomosa International, doing community development work in Malawi, Africa. And we recently installed Google Analytics on our website, and I want to learn more how to really understand the data, but really more importantly, how to drive visitors to our site. And then when we make changes, how do we assess whether that was actually more effective as well?
Hi, my name is Sherry Happy, and I'm new to Philadelphia. I just relocated to here from Michigan about a month ago. I am a commercial artist and web designer, and you can see my work at sherryhappy.com. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Jane, and I work at Temple, and I'm here to find out more about Google Analytics.
I'm Mary, and I've been coming to these for years, and last month we dipped our toes in analytics, and I can't wait to hear more.
I'm Harold Pugh. I work at the AFSC here, and in addition to being a resident, always looking to learn. So.
The hardest part is to get the camera lined up and then actually be on camera. I'm Steve Lubetkin, also known as Podcast Steve. My company produces audio and video, radio and TV shows for the web, for both profit and nonprofit organizations.
Okay. First of all, am I going to embarrass you, David, if I notice that you came in and you had an opportunity to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is David Greising. I write about work and help people with career development so that they can incorporate their values into the work that they're doing. And I was here 3 weeks ago for one of these, and I'm happy to report that I'm not sure I recognize most of you, which really demonstrates the movable feast of this meetup, which is really terrific. So for those of you who are here for the first time, I hope to see you again.
Thanks, David. I did mention that this is being streamed on the internet as well as recorded. I don't think I mentioned that we're also supporting a Twitter stream with the hashtag of PHLNET2 So if you have comments, you might want to tweet from here, or we will also be monitoring that Twitter stream, so there might be comments or questions that come from cyberspace that we'll represent out here, and I'll be looking at that, so can represent those to Nate. I also just want to mention that we're very informal here, so please feel free to get up during the presentation and go get some food or go to the bathroom. We're not going to have a formalized break, so just take care of yourself and take your time for what you need. If you feel like looking over the Twitter stream, you can go back to where I am over there. Or if you feel like looking over the internet stream, you can look over Steve's shoulder as well and just play around and have some fun. So at this point, I'm just going to pass it over to Nate, and he can introduce himself and get started.
Okay. Thanks, Seth, and thanks everyone for coming. Speaking of Twitter stream, we got a tweet from Ivan to let us know that he was joining us. For those of you who don't know Ivan, he was a very, very faithful Tuesday attendee. Yep. Is this better? I hope I don't have to do this the whole time, but I'll try to speak up. Ivan moved to the West Coast a little bit ago and continued to participate monthly virtually, which is awesome. So welcome, Ivan. So my name is Nathan Gosser. I run a web development company called Rock River Star. We do web development and digital strategy for mostly nonprofits as well as higher ed clients, mostly in the region, but also around the country. That's it. So, we're going to talk about two things mainly today, three things mainly today. The first is the general concept behind analytics and measurement, and that's going to be brief. The second are two specific tools. One's called Google Analytics, which everyone's already mentioned, and the second is called Google Webmaster Tools, which lots of people aren't familiar with, but I think it's got a couple of useful pieces to it, so we'll just kind of look at those. I always like to start with the poll. So everyone already, gave a little bit of notice, but if you are currently using Google Analytics on your website, raise your hand. So that's looking like probably half, maybe a little bit more. Who's currently using something else besides Google Analytics for measurement on their website? Okay, one or two. Okay, good. Who here would consider themselves the person responsible for working on their website, like hands-on doing the stuff every day? Not every day, whenever it needs to be. All right, again, about half. Okay, good. Good, we're up on the screen. All right, so first, before we introduce our two lucky contestants who are going to share their analytics with us all, I just want to, this is going to bug me, but it's going to flip through this. Basically, let me kind of go back to sort of the goals and some of the most important things to think about for analytics. The point of, actually the history, so we'll start with the history. Way back in the early days, as soon as people started having websites, the first natural question was, is anybody looking at this website that I'm putting together? And there were some pretty primitive tools back in the day, and the tools that we're using today are different from that. So who remembers counting hits and tracking hits on websites? There you go. So good. So less than half. That's great. The fact that that's no longer the term is great. So that was like a quarter of the people even remember what hits are. Hits are very useful if it's your job to make sure that the server isn't melting. And that's the only thing that hits are useful for. So anyway, that was basically there's two ways of measuring traffic to a website. One is on the server to measure how often the different files from the web server are being flung out into cyberspace, and those are called log analyzers. And for the most part, people don't use those anymore. Who still uses a log analyzer? Anybody? Nobody? Yeah, I figured you might. But for performance, right, and scalability and capacity and stuff like that, right? Not for marketing purposes mainly. And the reason is that to make a long story short, they're inaccurate. And for a lot of reasons. And again, they're good for measuring server performance, but they're bad for measuring the use of real people. So a while ago, the shift was made to using two important tools. Log analyzers work no matter what's going on. There's two important components to modern analytics that's worth kind of mentioning. One is cookies, and the other is JavaScript. Both have to be working in order for tools like Google Analytics to work. The good news is that is it's pretty well assumed that everyone has cookies and JavaScript enabled anymore. If you're browsing the web without JavaScript, you probably have a pretty poor experience right now anyway, and you're probably in a pretty small minority. So that's just to mention that those two pieces are necessary. So again, we're going to talk about Google Analytics. One of the reasons that we talk about Google Analytics is it's incredibly powerful and it's completely free. So that's, it's really hard to beat that combination. There's lots of things out there that are free and that's not Google Analytics. It's free and awesome. So, there's nothing, there are tools like Omniture. Someone mentioned Omniture. There are, marginal differences and improvements that it makes, but for the vast majority of people, Google Analytics does a great job. It actually began life as a really high-end enterprise product called Urchin. Anybody remember Urchin? And Google said, "This is so great, we're going to buy it, and make it free." And then all the other competitors cried the next week because Urchin was awesome, and Google Analytics continues to be awesome. And again, it's completely free. So let's sort of jump into how you even start using it. Some people probably use it because someone else put it on their site and they sort of inherited it. Some people probably slog through. How many people have themselves put in and installed Google Analytics on a website? Okay, so many fewer then are actually using it, so that's fine. Basically, the way to get started, and we're not going to go through this too much because obviously we're really here to talk about how to use it. But basically, when you go to google.com/analytics and sign in, you can sign in with any email address here, and you can sign in. So if I want to create, no thanks. If I want to create a new account, so I have a couple of websites here that, this is a good point, one Google Analytics account can hold data for multiple websites, and one website can give access to multiple different people. So it's not like there's one and only one password for the account and that's it. So, for example, our rc.edu, they created the account years ago and installed it and gave my account access to it. If you logged in as them, you would not see any of my accounts. Recently, Google made a change which was really, really useful. Originally, and for many years, whoever created the account in the first place, it was theirs until they died. And you couldn't give the account to someone else. So what the problem with that was that there were lots of people who, a volunteer would create the account or a consultant because it was tricky to get installed. So someone like me would say, "Oh, let me just do it for you." Create it under my own account, not really thinking long term, and then the organization, is forever tied to that volunteer or consultant, whoever created it. And so that volunteer would leave, they would shut down the account, and then you'd create a new account, but all your old data would be gone. And there is no way to export your data and take it somewhere else. That's changed now, and you can actually basically give the account to someone else. So if you're stuck with someone else controlling the account, and you've been told, well, it's always got to be under Harry's account because that's the way it is, that's no longer true. So, okay, so let's say I want to create a new, I've just created a new website and I want to install Google Analytics on it. So I'm going to create a profile, and this is going to be called Nate's Awesome Blog. NatesBlog.com. So I'm assuming that I already know that this exists somewhere else. This won't create a website for me, so it has to be somewhere else. And I am in media and entertainment. For what it's worth, since it does track by time, I'm going to tell it where I am. And so I'm going to create account name. I can just put that there. Get tracking ID. Yes, I accept. Oh, by the way, what this says is everything that happens on your website, Google now knows and can sell to anyone else they want to. So a good question is, why is Google doing this for free? This is why. What's the line? If you haven't paid for it, you are not the customer, you are the product. Right? So that's why this is being done, because there are other people, shadowy people, who pay Google lots of money to understand what people do on the web. So if you read this, that's what that's saying. And we gleefully click I accept and move on with our lives, right? Because it doesn't really matter to us day to day, because we're getting something wonderful and free. That's a whole other Net Tuesday, and we've had those discussions, which are great, but we're glossing over that today. All right, so now we move on, and we get this beautiful shiny code, okay? And this is where the magic happens. So what I need to do to make this, to install this now on my website, is I have to copy this code right here. Copy. And now I have to go and I have to put this on literally every single page of my website. Right? So in the old days, that meant you put it on every single page of your website. In practice, most people who have some kind of dynamic website or some kind of templating system, they paste it into their template in somewhere. In many cases, people are using something like WordPress or Drupal and or some other content management system or blog system or something like that. So, and those make it easy for you to do that. And here, actually, I meant to do this before. I'm just going to show you this really quick. This is a Drupal site and how one would install this here. There's two things to this code. One is the code. Get in there in 1 second. I'm sorry for not doing this earlier. I'm just going to jump in here and show you there's a module called Google Analytics, which I have installed here. And if I just go to modules and site, and if I go to edit, go to this configuration screen. Okay. So Google gives me all this code, right? But all of this is the same for every single site except for this, right? Oops, I can't even do that. Well, I'll just hold it here. You can see that, right? So that code is different from site to site. So I have to just copy that and paste it into here. See how it looks the same over here? It's a different number. It's really all it is. They all go UA dash blah, 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 blah. Interestingly enough, this last number is you can have different sites in the same account. So if you had a website and a blog that were two totally different sites, you'd have the same number, but one would be -1 and one would be a -2. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so that's how you install it here. Reed, I'm going to guess that the WordPress module is almost the same as this, right?
I stuck in the footer. It goes in the template.
Okay.
So you can put it in something that's going to, the easiest thing is if you do it on something that will be on every page, presumably the footer.
Right.
And if you happen to have a custom footer for some pages, you'll need to do it in 2 templates.
Okay, so that's a good point. So if you have a content management system, you can just paste this code right into the footer, and that guarantees that it appears on every single page. A few reasons why you might want to actually use the module. I can do something interesting here, like I can go to roles and I can say, add this to every role except developer and content manager. Right? So now what I did is I made this not track the staff. Right? When you get into Google Analytics, we'll show you there's a spot where you can exclude certain IP address ranges, but these days, who's to guarantee that people are coming from the same IP address? So if you're using a CMS, your module will let you exclude certain roles, which is pretty neat. You can exclude specific users. Anyway, and you can do another really cool thing, which is you can automatically track these 3 things: internal search, AdSense, DoubleClick, and one other thing: outbound links, email links, and downloads. Mm-hmm.
This is specific to a Drupal module?
Yes. Yeah.
What's the benefit of excluding those roles?
Well, if you're excluding content managers, for example, your staff, you're getting a better picture, a more accurate picture of what visitors are doing, because staff tend not to behave. I'll say content managers, meaning the people who work on the site. If you've got a huge organization, you may want to track your staff, but you probably don't want to track the people whose job it is to edit the website, because their behavior is very different from other people's. They look at lots of pages, look at the same page over and over again. They're going to skew up your stats compared to if you have, unless you have a massive quantity. I'm sure that, if you've got 2 people and you have 5,000 to 6,000 visits a day, that's not going to be an issue. But if you're down in the 30 and 40 and 100 visits a day, you don't want 20 of those to be your staff. So that's a great way to exclude that. Google Analytics does have facilities for tracking things like outbound links, which means if I've got a website and I have a link that says, for more information on the American Friends Service Committee, click here, and you click their link. Normally that wouldn't be tracked because that's someone else's site. But Google Analytics will let you track the links that people click on as they leave your site.
Because that's like one of the problems at my organization. We found that for some reason Google Analytics wasn't tracking the outside links, and so it's kind of like, okay, did we do something wrong, or so we don't know why it's not tracking. And we're using a WordPress platform, and so what we found was a plugin that we could add to addition to Google Analytics to help us, but it would have been great before we spent time searching, figure out what we did wrong so it would track the outside links.
Yeah, if you just do this, Google Analytics, track outbound links, you'll find how to do it. But you have to stick, next, revise outbound links to call the new function without, you have to do work.
Yeah.
Which is, again, why the modules are so great, because they do that for you. Okay. That's basically it for installing. Once you've installed it and you say, save, then actually I'm going to do this. I'm going to say save. Success. Thank you. Now I'm going to go to, profiles, tracking info. It's going to think it says tracking not installed, right? So it's going to check every once in a while. It may take a couple of hours maybe for that to show up. But what happens is once you go into a site like this and you go to admin, and you go tracking info, status, receiving data. That's what you want to see. You want to see it say that.
I just want to go back real quick about the modules. Is that something you had to set up personally, or did they come with the, like, once you set up the account, you have modules as an option?
Both Drupal and I'm going to guess WordPress do not come with Google Analytics module installed. You have to go get it yourself. If you're using a site like Blogger or TypePad or Squarespace or Tumblr or something like that, you probably will have this capability there already, and it's going to be the same thing. It's going to say Web Property ID or Google Analytics ID or something like that. You're not going to want to give it this whole ugly code. You're just going to want to give it the ID. Where were we? Okay, so receiving data. Once you're receiving your data, you're good. All right, so that's getting installed. Anybody have any questions about getting installed?
So if we already have AdWords, does that mean that we have Google Analytics installed already?
No guarantee. It's possible, but not guaranteed.
All right.
AdWords is a Google advertising service.
So it's different from this.
It's different from Analytics. They do work together, but you've got to do it separately. Anything else? Okay. We all know how to install, or if you don't, we can talk later, or if you're not a hands-on website person, don't worry. That's something that any hands-on website person should be able to do for you. Which is why people like me have a job. Okay. So now that we're installed, let's go and look at a basic profile. And for that, we're going to call on our first volunteers. Actually, you can just stay put. But basically, why don't you just say a few words about the organization, your use of the web, your use of analytics, and maybe a couple of questions. You had, emailed us some questions, but other thoughts?
All right, so my organization is a health planning organization. We are sort of affiliated with the city, depending on the day of the week. And so basically what our office does is we do a lot of work with data. We do an epidemiologic profile for the city every year, and we also write grant applications for Ryan White funding and CDC funding for HIV prevention. We also support a couple of big volunteer planning bodies that make important decisions about funding for HIV services in and around Philadelphia. And that's largely who is using our site, that and other cities doing similar work. One of our major issues is the complexity of the information we offer. The other thing is that when I came to my job like 5.5 years ago, I came in to take minutes. In the time that I was there, I took on all of the website stuff. I had to rebuild a website, not knowing at all what I was doing. And everything I know about social media and web anything, I've kind of learned as I went. I have some more skills now, and I'm about to overhaul this hopefully within the next 6 months. But that's where we are. So analytics, my knowledge of it mostly consists of going in and clicking around and trying not to break anything.
Okay. Oh, so that's a great point. I'll say there are two kinds of users on an analytics account. There's an admin and a user. If you were to, say, hire an intern or something like that, if you make them a user, guaranteed they cannot break anything. If you make them an admin, they potentially could. So, were you to be in a situation where you had someone else that wanted to learn, make them a user and not an administrator, and you don't have to worry at all about that. So, okay, thanks, and thank you again for volunteering to let us poke around. So, just to kind of give you guys, because I already did this, but just to kind of give everyone else a taste. We have a very clean, relatively simple, relatively small-ish, anyway, website with some cool presentations, but standard navigation and links and lots of documents to download, stuff like that. And we're going to go see what we can learn about this website, what Google knows about it. So this is
sell it.
exactly. So I'm going to show you something, and you don't have to know anything, and please don't faint. But I'm going to prove to you, through the magic of view source, that Google Analytics is installed on this website. Sometimes people don't know. They say, I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. We can find out for sure. So you view source, and you don't have to understand any of this. All you have to do is do a find, Control F, find Google, right? Okay.
Just verification.
Google site verification. It's not that. Google Analytics. It is that. Okay? So Google Analytics is installed on this site. Furthermore, this is the property key, right? So it's possible that someone says, here's our website. If you view source, you can see that Google Analytics is installed. Here's our account. If you log in, there's 0 visits. What's going on? Well, compare the property ID. Maybe someone put the wrong property ID in there. You can find these things out just by looking at the source. So that's that. Again, you don't have to know anything. You just have to be able to do a search for Google Analytics and see whether it's there or not. I had someone recently say, I feel like my visits are really, really, really low compared to what they should be. Well, it's possible it's not on every page. Maybe whoever put the site together, and I've seen this, used multiple different footers and put it on one of the footers but not others. So you go to another page, view source, Google, Google Analytics, good. All right, so that's how you just prove to yourself that it's installed. Now we're going to go look at the profile. So if I go over here and I go to my account list, I'm going to find HIV Philly. Remember I said you could have multiple? So under this account, there are multiple properties. And under this property, let's see, most of these have just one. All right, doesn't matter. HIV Philly, go. Okay. So if I go to home, lots and lots and lots of Google Analytics people don't ever get any further than this. You just say, okay, we have some visits. People, we have one person from Germany. And this is the kind of stuff you get out of it, right? And it's okay. How many people have told their executive director, someone came from Germany, or wherever, Italy, but we're going to try to go a little bit deeper than some of that. But I will say that there's so much stuff in Google Analytics. We're absolutely not going to cover everything today. So if there's something that we miss, I promise there will be. So first of all, I'm going to jump over to standard. So this is called a dashboard, and this site, this profile, has one dashboard, the default dashboard, and it has a whole bunch of little blocky things on it. And you can create your own dashboards tracking the things that you find useful. Before we do that, we've got to figure out what kind of reports there are here, and to figure out what kind of reports we are going to find useful to know what to put on our dashboard. So we're going to go over to standard reporting. And this is where most of the good stuff is. So we'll go over to standard reporting. Overview. So one of the cool things about Google Analytics, and one of the reasons why even for normal things that Google Analytics doesn't track very well, I like using Google Analytics to track it, is because it has really great control over time periods that you're doing reports. So by default, I'm looking at November 3rd to December 3rd. So that's pretty cool. I can do, let's say I want to do a full year. December 3rd, 2011 to December 3rd, 2012. Okay, so I got a whole year. Let's go by week. Okay, so the choosing your reports, choosing your time frame is the same throughout every report. And one of the things, I think this was one of the questions that came in. One of the questions I think that people struggle with a lot of times is, 115 visits. Is that good? Is that bad? Should it be higher? Should it be lower? Is that you always want it higher, but it's really hard to get anything out of absolute numbers like that. So the best thing to do is to think about looking at these numbers in comparison. Two things: comparisons and trends. So you can say, well, we go in, if I look by month. This is going to be not a full month, so that's not fair. So let's do this. Let's just do December, November 30th. November. Okay. No, full months. There you go. Trust the accountant to give us a good answer. There we go. All right, so here we have some trend information. Okay, so we might say, we've kind of fallen off since the beginning of the year. What can we do about that? You can say, I think I was supposed to show this. You can compare specific events like yeah. So what happened on November 27th?
We sent out an email blast.
Yeah. So you can see your email blast right here. So that's pretty cool. And you can say, well, did that? And this is going to be typical. So you're going to get a spike, and you're going to get a little bit of a fall off. So there can be other kinds of events that can trigger that kind of. You can get your link posted on a popular website. You get an article on Huffington Post or something. You're going to see a traffic spike. So measuring those kinds of bumps can be. Google Analytics is great for that. You can do two different campaigns and measure the difference in the bump, right? So you do your September campaign, and it's focused on, on sort of one aspect, and your October campaign is focused on another one. You can kind of see what was most interesting to people from that kind of a bump. So another thing that's pretty cool that you can do. Is you can compare previous periods. So if I'm doing December 1, 2011, November 30, 2012, this is going to be the previous full year, right? So blue is, let me just do this, January 2011 to December 1, 2012. Compare to previous period. All right, so now this is January to December, January to December. It's not quite right. Google's not as smart as you think it is. Yeah, all right, good. So, what's that? So you can compare year over year. And or even month over month. So November, December 1 compared to previous period is going to be. You can make it custom. So 1, 12, October 1, 12 to 12. There we go. Anyway. No more comparison. So, all right, so that's the time frame stuff. Okay. And of course, while you're setting this, let's go back. Let's give ourselves a decent amount of data. And we'll say January 1, 2012 to December 1, 2012. Okay, so here's 11 months ago. That setting is going to hold for anything that you do here. Let's run through the main points here. So a visit, and Google's got lots of help and stuff as well here. So a visit is one person coming to the website to look at your site for a period of time. I think that Google uses both cookies as well as sort of a timeout. If someone walks away from your site for 30 minutes, then it's considered to be another visit. It does its best to try to distinguish between a visit and a unique visitor. So a unique visitor is going to be a different person. There's all kinds of things that can fool that. Like, for example, it has no way of knowing if you have one computer at home and you have 3 people who all use the same computer. It has no way of knowing who is who. In some cases, it's rare, but it's possible. In some cases, an entire company can look to Google like one person. So everyone coming from the same company. There's lots of things that it does to try to prevent that, but that's just along the vein of this is best viewed as trend and comparison and relative instead of absolute. You probably cannot track down and find the 2,499 people who viewed your website and prove that it was them and only them and no one else. It's going to be relative. There's a margin of error. But the important thing is that the measurement methodology is consistent. And you can do comparisons, you can do trending, things like that. Even if you got Google Analytics and you put Omniture on the same thing, which are both really high-end systems, you will get different numbers. There's no question. You're going to get different numbers. Mm-hmm.
If someone is using incognito browsing, like with Chrome, are they going to show up in the analytics as a user?
They should. They will show up as someone different. They will lose the refer, which we'll look at in a minute. They'll lose the outbound link. They'll lose some of that data, but they will be counted as a person because they have JavaScript on, and they will have lots of privacy filters and stuff permit what's called a session cookie, but not a permanent cookie, which means it'll track you for that session and then drop off. Question?
We were saying about a company appearing to be one person. Would that be like if all your internal addresses are netted to one external facing address?
Yes, and so that'll appear as a single IP address. You should be able to get around that or Google tries to get around that by also using cookies. So it uses a combination of IP address and cookie. But again, if you are, there are some systems that will, the firewalls actually strip out people's cookies on their way, kind of in and out. So again, that's pretty rare. Most cases, the cookies get around the fact that the IP is going to be the same for the entire company.
So on a smaller scale, if my wife and I, we have a Comcast account with a NAT router,
right.
And if we visit the same site, we would look like one person.
If you've got cookies on, you're most likely going to be counted as 2 individual people.
Oh.
Yeah, you would need to have cookies off for that to happen. And, without cookies and without the IP address being different, that's going to be seen as the same person. If you are using incognito browsing or you're using another sort of privacy guard filter, it's not going to see this. You're going to be messed up over here. 66% are new visitors, 33% are returning visitors. Some of this new visitor percentage, some percentage is actually people who have persistent cookies disabled. So that means when they leave the site, their cookies are gone. During their visit, they're there, so it can distinguish them from one person to the next. But once they leave, they're gone. And the next time they come back, they look like a new person again. So that's, if you were, for example, Another interesting thing is to compare sites to site. You know, if your domain is strictly one site, then this isn't relevant. But if you have multiple sites, you know, theoretically a site that for some reason attracted people who were more concerned with their privacy than another, you would more likely see a higher percentage of new visitors because they are masking the fact that they've been there before. So that's what that is. You know, and this is one of those numbers that's like 66% new. Is that good? I don't know. Do you want to reach new people? Do you want the same old people to come back again and again? Yes. You know, I don't know of anyone who has a rational reason for saying we've got to do all we can to reduce that number or increase the other one or whatever. You know, you want both, and I don't really know. You know, so that's one of the numbers that I just don't see tons of effect one way or the other. Okay, so page views is the actual number of individual pages. So if one person comes and clicks on 5 pages, that's 5. The next person comes and clicks on 4 pages, now you're up to 9. Someone else comes and clicks on 12 pages, now you're up to 21. So that's total different views of a page. If you are doing advertising, or if you are getting someone to sponsor your site by putting a banner ad on your site or something like that, these are some of the numbers they want to know. They want to know how many, the word that advertisers use is impressions, and that means how many times was my ad shown to someone. So if you have a banner ad on a page, then that page views is going to show what that is.
Now, does it count as a new page view if something on the page, if you take some sort of action, open up a file, or take some sort of other action that you're really still on the same page, but it's giving you some other information?
That's a good question. In most cases, no. It's going to be treated as the same page. So, like, let's see. Here's an example, right? If I click this, these are just, I'm filtering by city, by county, by region, or country by region. These filter actions are not being counted as a new page. That's a good point. There's lots of sites, or sites are making more and more use of that kind of on-page interactivity, which is a technical word lots of people use as AJAX. But that is going to be considered one visit, or one page view. Another thing is the number of pages per visit. This is another. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. Is there a difference between page views and impressions? And if so, what is it?
No. Yes.
No to the question.
If you have one page that has 2 banner ads on it, and you have 9,800 page views, each of those ads receives 9,800 impressions. Right? Because there's both of them were shown there. Someone might ask you, what is your total site's impression count? In which case, it would be the sum of those. And you say, we need to get more impressions. The easiest way to get more impressions is to stick another ad up, right? So yeah, so there is a difference. It's the number of, the total number of visible ads there. Okay, so pages per visit. This is great. Okay, 2.73. So out of every person, all the people that came, you average them all up, people saw an average of 2.73 pages per visit. Is that good? Is that bad? Do you want people to come to your site, get what they want, and move on with their lives? Or do you want them to hang around and view page after page after page? Depends on their goals and your goals. So that's another one.
I have a question. When it says pages visit, is that the home page plus, or is that page visits beyond the home page?
The
landing page.
The home page is included.
Included. Okay.
Right. So it's not a guarantee that every visit begins with the home page. Right?
That's correct.
Because someone could have bookmarked an interior page, or they could have done a Google search and found and clicked onto a page that's inside your site. So that's any page at all. I've seen people do campaigns where they say we have got to raise our pages per visit. Best way to raise your pages per visit is to make your site more confusing. Let's hunt longer. That's not a good goal, So it's really hard to say that is a number, to really focus on.
What is bounce rate? Are you going to talk about that?
Yeah. Okay, we're getting there. So visit duration is the same as pages per visit. Do you want people to spend a lot of time on your site? Well, if they're learning a lot, yes. But if they're hunting around in the dark, no. So, that's another thing that's like, and Google makes no judgment. They just say, 2 minutes and 3 seconds. No, it's good or bad. But again, one thing, those are all sort of metrics to take into account, especially when you're doing things like new campaigns, putting new information up, doing a website redesign. Those kinds of significant changes you can look at and say, wow, we reorganized this section and, our pages per visit went down. That's probably a good thing because people found what they were looking for sooner. So those are that. So bounce rate is the percentage of people who visited one and only one page on your site. So they clicked and they said, this isn't what I want, or I don't want to be here, or I don't have, this isn't what and they leave.
Or they could say, this is what I want, that's all I want.
Exactly.
Right.
Oh,
exactly.
That's the number, right?
Exactly. They searched for the number, they landed on the page, they got the number, they moved on. Exactly. So again, if you have a site that makes really heavy use of Ajax, you could have given them a lot of information on that one page. So anyway, that's that. A really, really high bounce rate probably means that people are coming in from Google's, from search engines and saying, this isn't what I wanted. So that's a concern. Mm-hmm.
Is there a way to force the user to go to 2 pages? Is there a way, you mentioned Google and all this bookmarking and stuff, is there a way to force a person to go through your home page to the page of information so that you know that this bounce, if it just bounces, then you know they didn't get to the information? You see my question?
I do.
Am I not confused?
You could do something which is this would be a little piece of programming that you could say basically. All right, so there's a thing called a referrer, and a referrer, in addition to being fun to say, is the page that you were on just before this one. Okay, so while you're visiting a site, while you're browsing through a site, it's going to be like homepage, and then about us, and then contact us, and then our hours. So the refer for hours was contact us. The refer contact us. Okay, you got that. You could say, for every time the page loads, you could say, if the referrer was not on this site, meaning it was somewhere else, then instead of showing them this page, bounce them to the home page instead. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but it's possible.
You know how many of those bouncers found information and how many of them didn't?
Well,
they've got to be funneled to a homepage that doesn't give you any information. You've got to have.
They could have. The information they're looking for could be on the homepage. It depends on your homepage.
I'll put it this way: if you force them to the homepage and not finding what they were looking for, they're going to go away unhappy.
Well, from a user point of view, they want the most direct route. So if they're searching for something and you have the little thing under it, where it's saying the information that's on the page that they're searching for, and then it somehow gets tricked and they go to the home page and it's not there.
And then you have to think about why are you wanting them to go to the home page, because the way your website is set up, and you use your whatever site you put your menu on, which navigates to different pages of the site. It might not be referring them back to the home page. It could just be making a better use of the internal sitemap in-page navigation that you might want to look at instead of trying to drive them back to the home page.
Reed?
And I think it's important that what really matters is not that you have a certain number of visits or a certain duration or a certain number of pages to see, but that you get what you wanted from their visit. They subscribe, or they buy, or they sign a petition, or whatever it is you wanted them to do.
Yep.
And if you force them to do things that they would not have done on their own, they are more likely to just.
Right. So those things that you mentioned are called goals, and we're going to talk about goals in a little bit. Goals are really how you are the most effective way of measuring whether you're being successful or not. You look at that. So just to finish off this overview, we've got, you can see language, pretty high percent are in English. Country, city, so these are just, again, different stats. The system information is really helpful as if you're considering designing a website. So this is going to tell me what browsers people are using when they're looking at my site. I should think about that. This is going to tell me what operating system they're using. You'll notice that mobile stuff is starting to appear here. And then service provider, I'm not sure why this is interesting, but for most people it's probably not. There is now a whole tab for mobile. So interesting, for this site, Android and iOS are very close. I was looking at another one where iOS was 15 times that Android. I guess, it depends on your audience. Service provider, this is not as useful as you would think because lots and lots of people use their iPhones or their Android on their home Wi-Fi. So you might think, oh, it'd be cool to see if they're Sprint or AT&T. It's not really going to tell you that much. Screen resolution is very useful as well to tell you how big a screen. We're going to show you some more useful ways of measuring that stuff. Okay, so this is the main sort of overview page of stuff. And these are just different slices within there. Language, this is always fun. You can click into the United States and you can see Pennsylvania, New York, Illinois, presumably, oops, how did I get here? There we go. Presumably most of these visitors are going to come from Pennsylvania, but, you can see. So that's location. Again, these are all just tighter, more, in-depth views of the things we were looking at before. Technology, mobile, etc. Okay. Anybody have any questions on these sort of big numbers, main mechanisms of these overall traffic?
Mm-hmm. Is this the same area you would find reports for like some of the ones you showed us on the modules, like the outback links and is that in like a separate?
Yep, we're getting there. Okay, so that's that. So one thing that people... Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
What is the difference between percent of new visits and the new visitors number? They're very close, but slightly different.
This and this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there is a difference. I don't know why they're not the same.
Google Analytics often does sampling.
Right.
So it's not a complete count.
Right.
It's a representative count.
Yeah, I think they're the same.
Keyword
yeah. All right, so we're getting there. All right, so this is just like overall use of the site. That's audience. We're going to not go into advertising, but basically what you can do is if you are doing. Oh wait, are we doing it? No, we're not doing any campaigns. If you are doing Google Analytics Google AdWords campaigns, you can kind of link the two together, and you can say of people who clicked on my ad, then what did they do on my site? Things like that. Not necessarily going to go through that just yet. Traffic sources. So this is good. So this is how did people come to my site, right? So this again is a good. What you really want, all you really want is for more people to come to my site, right? But so in order to understand how they're finding you initially, that's what this report's for. So 72% of the traffic for this is the whole 11 months. It's quite a bit of data. 72% are coming in through search engines, and 10% referral traffic. This means they're clicking a link to HIV Philly from some other site. Okay? 16%, they either, direct means, they either typed it in themselves or they had a bookmark on their own computer that they came to. Or it could mean that they have like incognito browsing or something like that, where they're not passing along the site that they came from. So that's okay. Of search traffic, so of this 72%.
When I look at mine, I'm also getting visitors who are coming via campaigns. What does that mean?
That's going to either be you mean an AdWords campaign? Or are you doing?
No. When I'm looking at the categories of my visitors, one of my categories is campaigns, and I'm not doing any advertising.
E-newsletters? Do you do any newsletters?
No.
There you go. Sure enough, campaigns.
I'm just wondering what it is.
So campaigns are, they're newsletters.
For banner ads.
It's possible that it's perceiving links in email. Like if someone sends an email to someone and they click the link in there, it's possible that it's perceiving that. What you can do is go into sources, and under sources you'll see campaigns as one of your choices, and see what that means. See what they say there. I'm guessing it's somehow considering a link somewhere else, or possibly just a regular email being sent around, and it's perceiving that as a campaign.
Well, if I'm attaching something to like a tweet, would that be what you're talking about?
That should be coming as a refer from Twitter or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, be interested to see what that's showing up as. But yeah, campaigns definitely is usually an email thing, or some kind of.
Well, isn't campaign whatever you designate when you set up the link? You can designate it as a campaign in your Google Analytics, so that you can track it easily all in one place.
Right. In this case, do you know what JTA is?
Yes. Banner ads.
Those are banner ads? Okay.
Yeah.
So UTM source. UTM is urchin. You'll see U a lot in Google Analytics, and it stands for urchin, which was the original name of things. So I don't know what the TM means. But anyway, so that's a tag that was put, or I shouldn't say tag. That's a code that was appended to that banner ad, either by hand by you guys or by your constant contact system or something like that.
Right.
Right. So if you didn't, set up your own campaigns, then it's probably, getting it from somewhere else like that. Anyway, check it out under traffic sources, campaigns, and see what it says. Okay, so we're just going to go with it, and we're going to go back to. So, interestingly enough, you'll notice that I've switched over to RRC, and it kept me on the same report, same time frame, same information. So that's pretty neat. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. This is what I meant to do, is kind of float back and forth between the two. So since we didn't introduce you, I'm so sorry. Why don't you just kind of introduce who you are while I click around your site?
Well, actually, you might be asking yourself, why does a rabbinical college need social media?
So just to assure you that our students are actually very much out in the world. We have
Could I?
Yeah, please.
We have an entire section, which is a special track. Students can choose to specialize in social justice organizing, so that they come out prepared to do social justice work in their rabbinate. And we also have multi-faith studies and initiatives. So the college is very much engaged in putting our students in dialogue with students from Christian seminaries and Muslim graduate students and clerics. In fact, we're about to start requiring that our students study Islam. So we're a very kind of left-leaning, out in the world seminary. The interesting thing about this site is that we've been neglecting it badly for about 2 years while we launched 2 other very large sites. So other than updating periodically this big thing at the top, which we call the hero bar, rotating through different campaigns and things that we want to call people's attention to, and updating this what's new section where we are generally pointing to our people in the news out in the world. So this points people, these things actually point people away from our site to news articles. And then down here we have 4 blogs. This one was just launched. Other than all this activity on the homepage, very little has been done on the rest of the site for 2 years, and it's badly in need of an overhaul.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'm sorry for introducing you earlier. So, going back to... Right. So okay. So again, so 56,000 people visited the site over 11 months. 44%, very similar percentage from search traffic. 20% refer, 22% direct, and then from these campaigns. So search is really interesting. So if you go to keyword, actually we're gonna go through the more in-depth reports here, traffic sources. So I'm going to look at search overview and so these are visits from search engines over these 11 months. Unfortunately, there's a long story, and you can read about it on the web, but Google has decided to stop providing the word that so what these keywords are is these are the words that someone searched for in Google or Bing or Yahoo and then came to this site. Really useful information. And they had an arguably good reason, but Google has cut back on the percentage of those visits that they provide that keyword to the site owner. So 3 years ago, not provided was like 0, very small, and now it's huge. So all that means is that you've got to kind of take everything else and really focus more on the percentages than the raw numbers, because clearly, 67% no, that's not right. Whatever, this large percentage of these visits, we don't know the keyword they used. But you can look at the other ones.
And might you assume that it was one of those other ones?
Yes.
Or,
yeah.
Not some other thing that doesn't appear anywhere.
Potentially at the very small tail end, but not, you're not... Hidden under here is not something more popular than number 2. That's for sure. There might be some, tailors, small numbers hidden under there, but it's meant to be a representative sample.
Could that represent a whole gazillion one-time onlys?
No. It's going to be representative of the crowd, because it's a statistical percentage that they pass along. It's not intentional for any reason. It's random, if you will. Okay, so again, these are the words that someone is entering into Google and or Yahoo or whatever, and coming up with on your site. So that's pretty useful stuff to figure out how people are getting here. Paid search, it doesn't look like we're doing any paid search. We go back to organic, look at source. So, yes, people use Babylon and Conduit. Don't know what that is, but not very much. For the most part, Google, it's probably no surprise, still is the leader. Let's jump over quickly to HIV Philly and see how they see. Yep, same thing. Pretty strong lead by Google. Then you can also go into landing page, and you can say, again, just to keep you all on your toes, we're back at HIV Philly. So once someone has searched, probably Google, or probably Office of HIV Planning or HIV Philly, where do they come to? Again, no surprise, the home page is going to be high. That's Google doing that, right? Google knows which page of your site is the home page, and really tries to send people to the home page when they can. If they're searching for words that are common throughout your entire site, it's going to preference them to send you to the home page. If you're finding words that are very specific to a single page, then it's going to bring up a sub-page. But for the most part, the first result someone's going to get is going to be your home page. So this is going to be high, but for that reason. But then these are the pages that they come to, following that. So, all right. So let's kind of. I should have been doing this more all along, but so here's a so what moment, right? So what? So these are the pages people come to. So you should look at these landing pages and say, okay, so there's a decent percentage of people who are coming to my site, and this is the first page they see. Does this page adequately set them up for finding their way around my site? Does it adequately explain who we are? There's even a better way of examining that, which is if I go under content and I look at where am I going? Overview, landing page. Sorry. Yes. So this, if I go back to overview and do landing page, this is it's the same page, but this takes into account all of the different kinds of traffic, not just search. And what's the first page they find? So there's that. Let's see what the page is for RRC. See if there's any surprise there. So the most popular landing page, interesting, it's actually a 403, which means permission denied. And the place that they were going to is distance learning something. So we're going to pretend we didn't see that, and we're going to see this is the second most popular page. So again, something to look at when you look at this is say, so what? So does this page adequately welcome visitors, given that some percentage of them are coming to this page first and not another one? So that's something to consider when you look at these. Okay. Back to search. And with all of these, if you've gotten to number 10 and you're still interested, you can keep reading, right? So you can keep reading down and see more and more of them. You can keep reading down to 250 results if you want.
I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
About that landing page, what did you say? Is that also from, if you do an organic search in Google, if you do an organic search in Google and type in this college, it'll have those site links, 3 or 4.
Right.
Is that what this landing page is coming to? So is it possible that resources or this particular page is somehow one of those 3 or 4 site links?
Yeah, it's possible.
And so they could go ahead and change that.
Change what? Change what the site links are?
Yeah.
You can't really change what your site links are. You can remove them. You can't add new ones, really. Using Google Webmaster tools, you can remove them, which we can look at if we make it. What's our time look like, Seth?
Time looks like a little bit of 8. We normally we'll try and taper off as we get closer to 8:30, but we're loose and people pick up and leave when they need to. But hard to tell.
Okay, so if you're in overview and then you hit landing page, it's going to account for all of that, whether it's Google, whether it's the search, whether it's a site link, whether it's more from this site, any of those things, or any other way that they come into the site. Okay, so that's search. If I go to referral source, this is another great source of information. So this tells me these are the sites that people found a link to my site on. So Facebook, pretty popular. Jewish Recon.
That's our site. That's another one of our sites.
Another one of your sites, okay.
That's another one of our sites.
Okay. Wikipedia is not one of your sites. So this is useful because the two biggest factors in Google ranking in terms of getting your site higher up in Google, the two big factors are what words actually appear on your site and how many and what quality of sites link to you. So Google considers that if lots and lots of other sites are linking to rrc.edu, it must be a good site. So therefore, they bump you up higher in the rankings. So one of your jobs, if you're looking to bring in more traffic, is to get more other sites to link to you. You say, well, what kind of sites? They're here, this kind of site. These are people who are already linking to you. So you say, well, what other sites exist that are like jewishrecon.org or like ritualwell.org or like Wikipedia? This can give you a sense of what kinds of... Now, these guys already are linking to you, so you don't need to necessarily go after them, but what other sites are like those that might be places that you could get additional traffic from? AIDS Library, Public Health. Right, so naively looking at this, I'm going Public Health, Drexel.edu. Okay, great. Does the Temple Library have something that I could get them to link to me? How about Penn? How about, So those kinds of things can help you get more traffic, and traffic is good, but referral traffic pays dividends because you get higher up in Google because of that. Does that make sense?
Back on the last screen, Nate, there was the top referring site was Facebook, and then if you look at number 8,
it's m.facebook. What's the difference between those two? Oh, mobile. Okay.
Yep, that's going to be mobile. Oh, I can tell you that Campaign Archive 1, that's Constant Contact.
No, it's not.
Or who is it?
MailChimp.
MailChimp, there you go. I don't know what atazabesco.com is.
But you could click on that and go there, and it would show you.
Well, first of all, it's going to break the site down and show you. Well, it doesn't show you much more detail. But you'd have to do this. Let's do this.
I don't know, reference? Yeah, like a general reference? Yeah.
There you go.
Probably from a library source, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's what it is. They have library resources.
Okay, neat.
The other site had forex-ninjas.com. What was that? The HIV site.
Oh. Ding, ding, ding. Not that one. This one.
I have no idea.
Number 6.
Forex Ninjas. Well, Forex is foreign exchange.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, so if you dig deep enough, you'll find weirdness. That's guaranteed. there just is weirdness.
Visit duration 0.
Yeah.
They don't stay long on your site.
They're ninjas. You can't trust them.
It's probably a spider.
All right, go away. Okay, so that's traffic. Direct. There's not too much you can learn about direct traffic because it doesn't bring you, any information about where they came from. But you can see where they. This is right. This is the first page they land on, so you can do that. Okay. To keep moving. Again, there's plenty more in there, but, well, let's real quick look at social. See what social gives us. You've got to... some of the... We're going to get to the goals in a minute, but one thing Google likes to try to help you do is calculate ROI. So if you are selling something, then you can say, well, a book costs a book earns me $10, and so I can now track back and find out if I paid for ads on different networks, Google or Facebook or whatever, how much did I pay and how many books did I sell based on that ad, and was it worth it or not? Many of the sites that we're talking about aren't selling something, and so they're not going to have that specific ROI calculation. But they're going to do goals instead. So we'll talk about goals in a minute. I just want to run through content some more. Content is really useful for finding out, same thing we were talking about, right? So what's going to happen is that the CPG committee is going to come to you and say, how many people look at my stuff, within the site? And so coming into content and looking at, all pages helps you figure out that stuff. You can also do stuff like CPG. Can you share what CPG means?
It's the Community Planning Group, which does the prevention planning for HIV services.
Okay. So I'm just going to, again, naively assume that all 6 of these pages are relevant to that group. And I was able to do that just by doing a search here. And so now up here is going to be my aggregate. So I can say to the CPG group, or to the director who's interested in CPG this week or whatever, 800 page views, 50% bounce, whatever. So these values now are relevant for that.
What's the 140 entrances number?
140 visits. Their first page viewed in their whole visit was one of these 6. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Exits means that 26% of everyone who left the site, which is 100% of the people, 26% of them. No, that's not right.
I've just said, maybe. Just as that.
Right, but site average meaning 36%. The average, no, I'm not sure what that means. I'm not sure how to relate that.
The whole site,
right, but the site average would be 100% if that was the case.
Is it exit to another link?
Maybe 36% is the average for any given. No, I don't think it's not that. Never mind.
Any given page.
Maybe that's the case. So people are slightly less likely to leave after reading one of these pages. There's no great way to couch that. Okay, but that's that. You can also, if you click over to page title, this can help you out a little bit. Unfortunately, all these pages are sharing the same page title, which isn't helping much. Go back to here. Okay. If I go to this gets us back to those landing pages. Shows us which pages were the ones that people visited first. And this is the other good one, right? What was the last page people saw before they left? And again, it's not that there's anything wrong with this page that made people leave. That's
They
not
came
really.
to get a document, they got it.
That may be the way to look at it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's. I'm not. I'm not sure that there is a so what out of this. There's nothing you can really take action on here. But anyway.
I might be getting ahead of you, but just real quick, with all these reports, is there a way to export this either to other files or to a portal?
Yep. So every page up here has got an export link, and this just shows you some of the key ways of exporting. CSV. Actually, all four of these are really just different ways of getting data into Excel. Or potentially, if that's how you roll, something like SPSS or something exotic like for analysis or statistics. But realistically, these top four are really all just for spreadsheets. You can go direct into Google Spreadsheets, or you can do a PDF, which is going to be, basically look just like this page. So you're looking at this. Let's say that landing pages was interesting to you, and you were really, concerned about keeping an eye on those. If I click this Add to Dashboard, I can now add this onto my dashboard page, and this little widget is going to show up. That's one of my dashboard widgets. The other thing I can do is say, let's do it more interesting. Let's say I'm really interested in what my top content pages are, the pages people are viewing the most. I can add to my dashboard, I can export it. I can also click email. So I want this to be emailed to my executive director at myorg.org. I want to email her a PDF because she doesn't like to read anything but read. I'm going to email her a PDF, and I'm going to say, this doesn't make sense. So I'm going to say, our site's most popular pages this month, right? I'm going to email it to PDF. I want it monthly on the first day of the month. And I'm going to say, hello, Sally, whatever. So this is going to set up a monthly email to her with exactly this report, in a PDF format.
I have to deal a lot with segments of my list. So
Yep.
I'm hardly ever preparing 84 of the whole website.
Yep.
So I sort of latched onto the advanced segment idea, and I don't know if that's a good way to do it, or a way to do it, or if using the content area in a more efficient way would be
Right.
better.
Yeah. So that's probably the best way to do it. One thing you don't want to do, and I got a bunch more to get through, so I didn't really want to go into advanced segments just yet, but don't do profiles. Profiles, if I go to admin, I can create a profile. A profile is not what you want. It's never what you want. What a profile does is it specifically excludes content from the index. It's a filter such that it's going to throw visits away as soon as it sees them. So you could create a profile for the CPG group, but what you're going to do is throw away everything but that. And what happens is people create these profiles, and then they don't realize that it's throwing away the rest of the data. And then 3 weeks later, they're like, this report's great. And they say, well, what about the rest of the site? For those past 3 weeks, it's only been collecting CPG data because everything else has been thrown away. It's the only thing in the entire Google Analytics that's destructive like that. Advanced segments, if you mess it up, you can delete the segment and then create it again.
So then again, if you create a profile, it limits the total amount of information that's gathered?
Yes. Anything that doesn't match the profile is thrown away. So
Doesn't it say right over there on the left that if you maintain one unfiltered profile, that you're free to create additional filtered profiles?
right, but the problem is that people don't. If you don't, yeah.
Oh, I see.
If you don't read that. But yeah, so you were right. If you want to do a report on just one site, you can create what's called advanced segments up here, and you can segment by certain types of visitors. So you could say you could create a report based on everybody who came in from Google, or everyone who came in by searching for the word HIV, or everyone who came in and then went to a certain segment. But I want to kind of keep moving so that I don't want to get too into the weeds. We can come back to that if we want to. But yeah, so if you wanted to say, again, CPG, and I wanted to, oops, I'm sorry, is it CGP?
CPG.
What happened? Content. All pages. CPG. Search. That worked? Okay. So if I do that, and then I hit email, this is going to be my CPG, right? And I can do it however I want. Okay. And there is a place out here, nope, somewhere else. There's a place that lists all those emails. So you can go through and create these reports and send off these emails, and then there's somewhere else where you can see all the ones that are going out and their frequency and edit them and stuff like that. So don't worry that they're going to be lost that way. All right. Content. I want to get to site search. Site search. I'm going to go over to RC. No. Okay. So here's a thing called site search overview. So this is HIV Philly. HIV Philly has a search on its site, but it's a Google, it itself is a Google custom search. So that's actually sending you off the site to do a search, so we lose that data. I'm sorry to report that RRC also has no site search data.
Because we're using Google as well.
This is...
So if you use the Google search, you can't get the info?
This is a Google search.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know of a way to do that.
And as you see, it's been set up to search all three of our sites.
Right. I do know a way of doing that. What you could do is you could write some JavaScript to before that button is clicked, inject a value of the value that someone typed into Google's index and consider that a site search. It would definitely have to be a programmer that would do that, but it wouldn't be hard. But I'm going to show you, this is just a little site, not a big site, that we have analytics on that's got some decent search tracking.
So they built their own search engine? Why do they have it?
Because it's within the site. It's actually a Drupal site, and why can't I do this? Number one. All right, there we go. Number 15. All right. So here's some searches. Not a lot, but so this site, if I search for food and search, it's a Drupal site that's tracking search internally. Not only that, but okay, so let me show you what that looks like. So again, site search means that people are typing the words into your site and searching within your own site. And so these are the search terms that people are using. So this is great information if you don't have another way of tracking this. Depending on your search engine, you may have other ways of tracking this, but it's a great way to track what people are interested in and what they're searching for. In this case, the reason I wanted to pull this out, even though there's not that much search here, is, in this case, when I look at this, there's a program. This organization has 5 different main programs: obesity, housing, healthy planning, tobacco control, plus the organization. And so this category can be set up to track. Now, these are their codes, so they know what this means, but this category can be set up to track which section of the site they did the search on. So that's just sort of showing you how you can add a little bit more to that. It also shows you what page they started their search on. If you have only one search page, like HIV Philly has only one search page. You click search and you come here. But most sites don't. You can search from anywhere. So what you might say, okay, homepage, that's obvious, but you might say that a page that was high here meant people weren't finding what they wanted and they turned to search to help them out. That might be a stretch. I might be fabricating that. But anyway, it shows you what page they were on when they started their search. And then it shows you some interesting things like, how long did they spend after they did a search? 3 more minutes. That's pretty good. If you do a search and then you bail, the results that came back were not what you wanted. So that's pretty good information. Okay, that's site search. Events. I'm going to stick with this site because there's a lot of events. So there's 3 kinds of events. There's downloads, outbound links, and mails. You can add other events. So Seth was talking about. Okay, I'll do this. Seth was talking about a page where you click, you don't go to a different page. So you could actually, this page rotates among these 4 automatically, but not all sites do that. So you could actually tie an event to one of these to find out if people are looking at these stories or something like
We
that.
actually have code connected, like we actually search or actually in our back end of the search.
When you mean for when you click through to read the articles? Mm-hmm. You have to write some JavaScript to tie, and then you give it a name, because of that. It's tough to. There's no, I should have had a good example for that, but where are we going? Most events are either going to be downloads, outbound links, or mail.
So they're set up with Google Analytics, those 3?
Yeah, these are the Drupal Google Analytics module creates these 3. So you have these, right? Yep. Downloads, outbound links, and mails. Right.
We don't mail from Google.
No.
Yeah.
These are. These must be
They're
emails that someone clicked on.
Right. Got it.
Just fire up an email to someone else.
Right.
Back to events overview. So if I go to outgoing links, and I have to click over to event label. These are the sites that people clicked a link on our site and then went somewhere else. right?
That's mostly on the homepage in the newsletter. Yeah.
Okay. If you wanted to, you could create an advanced segment that was everything but the homepage to see if if you wanted to try to exclude those because you know that those are popular things, you could create a segment that would exclude everything about the homepage and just look at other pages. Anyway, so that's outbound links. So I look at right. Downloads are going to be files. By default, Google Analytics will not track a PDF or a Word document or something like that, because when it loads up, there's no JavaScript on it to have the code. The PDF, if I'm going to click on, if I'm looking at this PDF, it's going to take me there. There's no footer. There's no site footer to hold the Google Analytics code. So there's nothing about that PDF that would cause Google Analytics to run and to log it. So as a way around that, the Drupal plugin, probably the WordPress plugin and other ways, add an event to that click so that you can track the downloads. So this gives you a great table of the most popular, in most cases it's going to be PDFs. I see there's one document here, Word doc here. But so it gives you a great way of tracking what people are downloading, which you wouldn't be able to get without doing that. If you have so like if I go over to HIV Philly, which doesn't use that module, and I go to events, there's zero events at all. So if, for example, this page wanted to track these, then what you have to do is add a little bit of code on the link itself to cause Google to track those. But since we're such big fans of using CMS modules, it tracks it for us. So that's cool.
So audio, wouldn't you consider the download if it's uploaded to the site?
Yeah, absolutely. If you have an MP3 file, that's going to be here.
Mm-hmm. So anything that's not one of the templated pages.
Right. Right. Yep. Okay.
Just doing a time check. So it's 20 after 8. We'll aim for about 8:30, but we're a little loose. So I know you wanted to get to goals and stuff.
Okay. So that's events. Okay. Where's my thing? Okay. So I want to show you a couple cool things. So a goal. Let's make some goals. A goal is something that you want to measure for to find out if visitors completed it. I have one example. It's very simple, but it's a church website that I built a while ago, and we wanted to find out how many people were contacting us. I'm sure this will shock you, but we could never get the person who answered the emails to really keep track of how many they answered. I'm sure that doesn't happen to you. But we really wanted to just track that, ourselves and not have to constantly rely on that person to say, oh, I got 5 this month or 10 this month. So we set up a goal, and if I go over to that that profile. Where is it? There it is. If I go to under conversions, I go to goals. Overview. They have 2 goals. Oops. 2 goals. One is contact us sent, right? So someone sent, we'll focus on that one first. Someone sent a contact us. There's this little cute little graph. All right, let's throw some more data in here. And I actually have quite a lot to throw in for this one. So over all these years, 5,000 people. All right.
Is this a form that then they're pushing send? Is that what that is?
Yeah, this is a very, I'm sorry, I could have done this. This is a very simple form. Name, email, phone number. Question, comment, go. Okay? Here's the funnel. 4,885 people viewed the form, like got here. 22% of those people filled it out. The rest saw this and went, bah, not worth it, and bailed out, right? So this is a two-step funnel, right? They had to view the form in the first place, and then they had to complete it and send it out. 22% made it through there. That's all right. So that gives us the total number of people that actually submitted that. So this was our goal. It gives us the percentage that completed our goal. And then it tells us on the way in, like, where were people before they started this funnel? They were on these 5 pages. And then when they were done, where did they go after that? So,
how do you set up SO?
So if I go to admin and I go to where do I go? What do I do? Oh, sorry. Oh, let me do that again. So within my profile, I go to admin, and then I click my site. And then one of my tabs here is goals. So this one actually has 2 goals. It has the contact us sent, so that's the one we've been looking at. It has a name, active, inactive. The type is the destination. So the only way I knew they completed the goal was that they viewed a page that said thank you for submitting, thank you for asking a question, right? After they filled it out, it showed them the thank you page. So what I did was I tracked that thank you page, right? So how do we know they completed the goal? They viewed that page. You could make a goal that said, my goal is for someone to lose 5 minutes of their life on this site, right? So that's, you could make a visit duration goal. You could say, my goal is for people to read 10 pages. That would be my goal. Or for them to download a file. Or my goal is for them to leave my site through some other link, some specific link. So those are the 4 types of goals you can make. URL page, your destination, is a pretty common way, because it's like, who viewed this page? If you want them to donate $10, then you can say, you can be tracking the thank you for your donation page, right? So that can be your destination.
I struggle with this goals thing because I've looked at it a lot of times and I fail out because everything I need, I pretty much can get from the other pages.
Well, you can't get the.
Maybe I'm missing something, but it just seems like, for example, the scenario you just mentioned about that page where they have to fill out their contact and it goes to thank you. You could see how many times did it land on the contact us page. And you can see how many times they clicked on the thank you page, and you can get that 22% just by looking at the 2 things.
Not necessarily, because that's making sure that it's the same person on the same visit on the same path, not the number of people that viewed the thing. You know, you could have people who viewing the contact us page, then they go on to somewhere else and come back and view the page again, and then you could, so it's not quite the same.
I see you, yeah, I would be really splitting hairs at that point, but roughly speaking, without having to go through all this massive stuff, am I right, or am I missing something completely? Like, there's something so powerful with goals that it just makes it enticing to use it.
You can also create, you can also, first of all, you can make multiple steps. So your goals are really more designed to be transactional. So if your goal was to say register as a member, that might be 4 pages. So there you're going to see the individual drop-offs of each step along the process. So you can see what percentage. So if, for example, if you had 80% made it to page 1, 70%, and then 20%, you know that that's the problem page.
There's a page on here where you can find that. You can see that.
Right. You have to create that each time, though. Whereas if you
there's
Number of visitors.
the flow. There's a
flow.
There is a visitor.
Right.
Something that shows you that diagram.
Yes.
But I'm looking at the other 4 things in here about duration. Well, you can catch the duration from the other page. Yeah. So each of these, I kept wanting to do this goal thing, and I just failed out because it's like, I didn't get it.
Well, so
no. Well, never mind.
Another thing is you can easily take your goals and you can throw them on your dashboard. So instead of going into Flow and finding the page you wanted and finding, that's a lot of work. You could throw that goal on your dashboard, and then every time the thing loads, you can look at how your goals are doing and what percentage completion you can compare your completion rate over the previous month. You know what I mean? It's kind of, there's nothing magical in goals. It all is data that's elsewhere, but by packaging that up, giving it a name, you can use it again, you can put it in your reports, you can put it in your dashboard, you can compare it, over time.
Thanks.
You can put a value to it. You can say, this goal is worth some. So registering, let's say registering as a member of the site, you can say this is worth, or a member of the organization, you can say this is worth $65 to us. That's then you can use that goal to go back to ROI and say, if we're going to charge, or if we're paying $50 a month for a banner on this site and $90 a month for a banner on this site, which one is getting us more money based on the number of people who sign up, having come and visited us through those. Do you know what I mean? So goals let you add dollar values to things. And in this case, we didn't, because there's no dollar value on a contact us. But anyway, that's funnel. So here's another fun little. Where do people of the people who went through the form? Where did they come from? Google, Direct, Yahoo, Bing, etc. Again, you could get that other places, but once you've identified that as your main goal, then it kind of saves that for you to.
I noticed this, the event flow. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The event flow, but without having it set up.
Yeah, this one doesn't have. Right. Okay, I want to show a couple more things before we run out of time. I wanted to go back to. And look at the in-page. This is a fun thing. So this shows me these colors.
Wow.
You can see the scale over here. So red is most, just know that red is most popular and blue is least. So this is showing me the popularity of different sections on the site. Anyone know what these are? No? All these color blocks in here?
Where the mouse is hovering?
They're drop-down menus. If you look at how their site works, it actually knows movement restructuring. That's movement restructuring. So that's kind of funny.
What did you click to find that?
This is called in-page analytics, and it's over. It's over at the bottom of content. I want to show.
Ads or not?
Oh, yeah. No, that was a different item. It's kind of neat because it shows you. Oh, my problem is my time frame here. So how come these aren't lit up at all? They're new. My time frame is too big. My time frame is years. If I went instead and did, October to, say October 1 to just the last 2 months, maybe I'll get some traffic on it.
I think you.
Oops.
Oh, you just need to.
This is the month of October. I got a few more. Let's try that one more time. Let's get November 1 to November 30th. There we go. So, right, so this shows me which of these is the most popular. So this is interesting. People and about are the most popular links down here. So this is pretty cool. And if you have people who are very visual, this kind of is interesting to them. This is also fun. Browser size. I really wish I had a bigger screen, but if I click this is showing me this bar that's lit up now. 99% of people are able to see this. Greater than 90% see this on their page, right?
That's what that's scrolling? Is that what that means?
Correct. Yep. These are phones right here. That's the size of the screen that they're seeing. More than 80% are seeing this. So, you know, the big oh, this needs to be above the fold. Well, where's the fold? For 80% it's there. For 70% it's there. For 60 it's there. For 50 it's there. So this shows you by percentile where exactly that fold's going to fall. And the same goes for going out the side. 60, 70. Yep.
Now, if you had a mobile optimized site, presumably you have near 100% on a horizontal axis.
Right.
You should, anyway.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be, I mean, it's a little sort of disingenuous because just because this is the screen size doesn't mean, the iPhone is going to shrink it down.
Right.
So that doesn't mean that this is exactly what they're seeing.
Yeah, okay.
But because that's the screen size, just because that's the screen size. And as a matter of fact, they're more likely to be, the other way anyway. But if you wanted to, you could easily create a segment for mobile, like one whole segment for mobile, one whole segment for desktop, and study this in a cleaner way. And say, of my desktop people, what are they seeing? Of my mobile people, what are they seeing?
Could you set that as a goal? Or no, that would be something else?
That would be an advanced segment. And you would name it. You would call it mobile, or you would call it, something like that.
Would you use their code, that M?
No.
And M Facebook, or would you have to define it as mobile?
You would do, all you would have to do would be to click on advanced segments and say, I want this to be mobile traffic. And then, so that's the screen size thing. I think that's pretty interesting from a site developer standpoint anyway.
Yeah, I think we've got to start wrapping up.
Okay. So, I think I covered everything I wanted to. Clearly, there's a lot more here.
Did you mention in passing that these weren't a standard analytics, but you could also specialize your own analytics?
Sure. You can create, any of these that we go in, like we've been looking at. Like if I go to search terms, right? And if I want to look at the search terms. Hello? You can do a combination of tweaking the filters while you're looking at it, and then if you get to something that you like we were talking about, wow, I really broke it. we're talking about filtering your view to just, oh my goodness. Let's get rid of that one. So if you wanted to go to, traffic sources and say, from everyone who came from search, you can, filter around with this, and you can say from source, and you can say, everyone from, AOL, whatever. I mean, you can filter, your reports like that. Did I get one visit? 19. Okay. And then when you get a report that you like, you can add it to your dashboard or make it, by
So the specialization basically comes in the dashboard, not necessarily in the analytics you actually get.
Right. You don't create new reports on the left. You just tweak the ones that are there. You can do a lot. You can do, like, if I want to go to all sources, you can add a secondary dimension, so you can say, so these are all sources by, again, let's go by, okay, so these are the keywords that people are entering. I can add a second dimension to that, and I can say, let's look just at content, or no, traffic source, and say, source. So from people that came in from Google, anyway, there's tons of customization that can be. I'm trying to avoid getting too deep into the weeds, but so let's wrap up. And do you want to do questions together, or how do you want to do that?
Well, I think if people have questions, we can do that kind of informally. I think people are starting to need to go, and that's fine. So first of all, I want to thank Nate for carrying the load on And there's no rush. People can stick around. They can continue to ask questions. Nate's sticking around while we'll clean up and start to break down a little bit. And those who might want to come out for a bite or a drink can stick around even longer. And I think this has been great. So thanks again.
Thank you.